All right, welcome everybody. My name is Lynn Twist. Some of you know that and some of you may not. And this is the Remarkable Voices series that comes from a course that Carolyn Buckloose and Sarah Vetter and I lead called the Remarkable Women's Journey. And many of you are graduates of that program, or some of you are starting it soon. We have the Remarkables from this year's cohorts, some of you that you hear. And we're delighted to have you all here. And it's kind of a reunion that we have when we have the Remarkable Voices special guest speakers. And today we have a superstar, superstar, which we will talk about in a moment. I think you all know Dr. Mark Hyman's going to be with us. But we always begin with a meditation, and we're going to do that right now. And I will lead that. So if you're not driving your car, I invite you to lower your eyes or close them and drop into the sweet territory of the breath. And as we breathe in and out, we receive and we give in equal measure. And as we breathe in and receive the nourishment of the universe for the flourishing of our lives, and as we exhale, we give our love, our encouragement, our commitment, the currency of the breath, the sigh, the letting go into the universe. And notice that there's equanimity always waiting for us in the breath. We receive and give in total reciprocity. And just feel the joy and the privilege and the delight of being in a female body. A female body that has the capacity, and in many cases, the experience of creating life, of giving birth, of allowing life's longing for itself to be expressed through your physicality, your incarnation, your femininity, your body. And just tap into that incredible gift of being a woman. And as you do that, I will read a quote that probably everybody knows from the beloved Elder Donna Markova. Keep your eyes closed. I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of failing or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live so that that which came to me as seed goes to the next as blossom, and that which came to me as blossom goes on as fruit. And let's just breathe silently together for the next, let's say, 10 breaths.
See a pen over there?
Yes. You need paper?
Please mute someone who asked for a pen. And take one more deep breath now together. And exhale and open your eyes to behold the conclave of feminine souls on the screen. How cool is that?
So cool. This is a really, I'm Sarah Vetter, for those of you who don't know me. I lead the Remarkable Women's Journey with these two characters, Lynn and Carolyn. And I love this group. I mean, this is like, I love how many people are on this call. And if you aren't a remarkable, I predict you will be soon and maybe after this call. So I'm going to go around to the remarkables and ask you to say your name, where you're from, what year of Remarkable Women's Journey you participated in, and then share one word that describes your relationship with your health right now. And I'm going to have Lynn, Carolyn, and Tracy model this exercise, this part. So Lynn.
Do you want them to also introduce their guests or not?
Oh, yeah, good point. And introduce your guest by saying their name for us, and then we'll go to the next remarkable. So now, Lynn, go.
I'm Lynn Twist. I am in San Francisco. I am from all the years that we've been doing the Remarkable Women's Journey. I'm in all the cohorts. And regarding my health, I'm ecstatic and grateful.
Thank you, Lynn. Very good. Carolyn, buck loose.
I'm Carolyn Buckluse. I'm in San Rafael. I have also been in all of the journeys, and my relationship with my health is collaboration.
And Tracy Mays.
Hi, I'm Tracy Mays. Of all the years of the Remarkable Women's Journey, I have numerous guests here, so I'm not going to introduce you all. You know who you are. I love you. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to say right now in this moment, the word that I would describe my relationship with my health is blessed.
And I forgot to introduce my guest, Shelley Lefko. Shelley, just wave so people can see you. There you go.
Excellent. And I'm Sarah Vetter. I live in San Francisco. I'm part of all the remarkable journeys. And my word about my health, describe my health, is vitality. All right, so here we go. I'm going to call on Cheryl Buck.
Okay, my health goes first. I'm a cat. I can't
Where are
get
you
the cat
from?
off.
Where are you from?
Yeah. Okay. I'm from Los Altos, California. Was in the first RWJ group. And is that it? I'm distracted by my cat. That's me. I'm sorry I pushed the video thing, start video 15 times, and I'm still a cat. So
Okay.
happy to be here.
Thank you, Cheryl. Kristen. Woman. Kristen.
Good morning. I'm Kristen. I'm in Palm Desert, California this morning. And I'm happy to introduce my guest, Sonia Wave, my BFF from college, and my neighbor here in Palm Desert, Linda Wave. She's coming to us from Chicago today. And my word for my relationship with my health right now is deepening.
Excellent. Thank you, Kristen.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Okay, Jennifer Yarbrough.
Which one? Jennifer Yarbrough. I'm in New Haven, Connecticut. I'm from the 2023 Remarkables cohort, and I'm in a state of repair.
Excellent. Thank you. And Carolyn Powers.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Powers. I live in Manhattan Beach, California, but I am currently visiting Charleston, South Carolina, where I am today. Special place, I've never been. My relationship with my health at this time is conscientious. And I am from the second remarkable group. Can't remember that year.
2018.
2018. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Elizabeth Hussein. I probably am not saying your last name right. She's a new remarkable. She hasn't experienced anything yet. So
No, this is my first remarkable experience. Hello, everyone. Elizabeth Husserl. Thank you, Sarah. I'm actually from the Bay Area, but I'm on a train from DC to New York as we speak. So my connection's coming in and out, but I want to introduce Karishma and Chris. They're some of my favorites that I work with. Y'all can wave. And my word around health is curiosity.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Aaron Linder.
Hi, I'm Erin Linder coming from Park City, Utah. I am part of the 2023 cohort, and right now my relationship with my health is resting, resourcing, and renewing.
Excellent. I'll let you pass. That was more than one word, but it's okay. They were all excellent words. Okay, Jennifer Marcaccini.
Hi, everyone. Jennifer Marcaccini. I'm in Sedona, Arizona, and I was the class of 2021, and my word is radiant regarding health.
Beautiful. Thank you. Kathy Terry.
Hello, I'm Kathy Terry. I am in Austin, Texas. I am in the cohort 2022, I think. And my word would be grateful for my health.
Thank you. Kira.
What class are you 22?
Good morning, Kira Milich from Berkeley, Kensington, California, and 2023 cohort, and blossoming from the muck.
Excellent. Thank you. Lauren Zeltzer. Ooh, I haven't seen you in a long time.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren, and I'm in South Salem, New York. I was in the 2021 group, and I feel lucky and always learning about my health.
Excellent. And Stacy Lawson.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stacy Lawson. I'm in Healdsburg, California, just north of San Francisco in the wine country. I was in the class of 2022, and my word would be rejuvenation.
Okay, Sarah Kavanaugh.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Kavanaugh. I'm in Seattle, Washington. So good to see all of you. My word is physical therapy.
Excellent. Thank you. Tracy Green Clark.
Hello, I am coming to you from right outside of Philadelphia. I have my friend Rachel Hirsch on the call today. Hi, Rachel. I am the class of 2021, and my word for my health is fruitful.
Excellent. And Zara.
Okay, sorry. I'm Zara from Los Gatos, or in Los Gatos, California. 2023 is my cohort, and the word for my health right now is listening. And my remarkable guest is my sister-in-law, Sheila Bari.
Excellent. Wave for the crowd. Okay. Did I miss anyone? Because the names kept bouncing around and.
Yes, Leslie Salmon.
Leslie.
Oh, okay, Leslie.
Hello, everyone. My name's Leslie Salmon Jones. I'm part of the 2020 cohort. I am in Boston, back from 11 weeks in Costa Rica just 2 days ago. And the word for my health is vitality.
Right. And then we have Annie Avery.
Ah, yes.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Yep. I'm Annie Avery. I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I'm from the 2021 cohort. And my word is curiosity about my health.
Excellent. Okay. Anyone else that I missed?
Judy Price.
Judy Price, yeah.
Oh, okay, Judy. Sorry, the names are bouncing all over the place for me. So thank you for the help.
I'm Judy Price, and I'm in Arizona. And I have a guest. Oh, and my health, fabulous. And my guest is Julie Miller, and she is a dear friend and client of mine. So, are you there, Julie? I think I saw your name. Anyways,
yes, she waved.
And did we call on Nancy Gross?
Nancy Gross.
Sorry, it took a while to unmute. Hello, I'm Nancy Gross, class of 2020. And my word for health right now is recovery.
Excellent. And also Judy is with our new cohort. So she's a newbie, about to embark on this.
And I also saw Carol Levine come on. Carol, are you there?
I don't see her on the.
It could be.
I'm gonna chime in. It's Melinda Wolf. I'm here without my true self because I just got back from a workout and you wouldn't want to see that true self. So I would just say that I am not of any remarkable class, but I hope I'm remarkable. And I would say the word for my health is focused.
Hey, excellent. Okay, and I don't see, who did you say, Carol? I don't see her on here, but
Carol Levine, I don't think she's there.
I saw her come on, but it's okay. Let's keep moving.
okay. I think that's it.
Great.
Remarkables. Thank you for that. Love it.
Welcome, everybody.
Yes.
Welcome. So let me just share our purpose. The purpose today is to create a space for the Remarkables and their guests to deepen their relationships with one another and be engaged in conversation with one of the most remarkable voices of our time, Dr. Mark Hyman. And as we wait for Mark, it would be great if everyone could put into chat, what's one thing that you really hope Mark touches on today? We're going to have a beautiful conversation with him, but it would be great for him to sort of see what you're interested in. So put into chat, what's one thing that you would love to hear from Mark today? One insight, one takeaway that you would love to have. Great, thanks, Jennifer. Okay, Kristen, menopause, got it. Beautiful, thank you, Lisa. Let's hear from everyone. Even if Mark doesn't touch on it, you can know this is an issue. So if you don't have the answer, you can go find out. Great, thanks.
Sleep, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Like healthy diet when life is nonstop. I think I can relate to that.
Yep. Food and aging.
More energy. Ooh, I like that too. Healthy transition to plant-based diet. They're all so good. I want to know all these things.
So, Kristen, when you look at this, is there a theme that's coming up? Pick one theme that's showing up here.
Well, I see a lot of people wanting to talk about menopause because all of these things are relevant to what we go through in these perimenopausal and postmenopausal years. And I would love to hear a male doctor who's as acclaimed as Mark speak on it.
Great, yeah. And what else? Annie, what are you seeing that seems to be a theme here? You're on mute. Anne Avery, can you go off mute? There you go.
Sorry. Okay, I'm off mute. I was still trying to type in my my question, and it was just all the conflicting things about that are on the that are in the internet about health. And so mine was particularly about nut milks. And I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to read the other one. So I'll go back to that now. Sorry, Carolyn.
No problem. Leslie Salmon Jones, what are you seeing as a theme here?
Well, definitely, it seems like the women's health and menopause and longevity seems like something. And I agree with in terms of like so much information is out on the internet, and it's really hard to discern what is true and what's, so many trends. So it would be very interesting to hear from him.
Yeah, so menopause and healthy aging, what's truth and what's myth? Tracy Green Clark, I saw that you talked about, how does this all impact with the environment? You want to say something about that?
Yeah, I'm gonna, hopefully my dogs aren't like barking as we're talking. Yeah, so I'm in my master's degree right now in integrative health at California Institute for Integral Studies. So this is like super interesting to me.
Oh, good for you.
I'm loving my classes. I'm loving the work that I'm doing. So this is totally my jam right now. And I think that I think that when we look at it from like a big picture perspective and we think about food, which is the topic that I'm seeing, the theme that I'm seeing a lot in here is food as medicine, or food as a response to a lot of our problems. Like all of these issues can be addressed with food. I also see that we can also address a lot of ecological, environmental concerns with food. So if we change the way we grow our food, we can change the way we feel. And it's a cycle that just continues to be regenerative.
Yeah, and then Kira, you mentioned autoimmune disease and the gut and everything. Tell us more about what you're longing to get some insight on. This is I know a place that you spend a lot of time in.
Basically, we've always heard you are what you eat. And especially as we come across all sorts of external factors and whatever genetic or biological factors are going, I'd like to know how we can utilize food to counter that or mitigate that as best as possible. And again, like people said, it's hard to know what's correct out there in the internet. So hearing from a professional would be wonderful. Lots of food to choose from.
Definitely a lot of food to choose from.
Carolyn, can you call on Zara? Because she has so many food issues and I hope they're all gone.
Zara,
They're not gone, but I know a lot about gut health and food as medicine from my experience the past few years. And I think what I'm most interested in, I haven't written this in the chat, but I will, is how we can change our culture around food as people viewing it as medicine as opposed to whatever it is right now.
And I didn't write anything into chat. And it's a good thing that we'll have Mark for 10 hours. We might need him. But I'm particularly interested in how do we know what's normal? Like what's the baseline? And how does that change? I mean, how does an individual know that they're healthy? How do we know that? Well, I think, why don't we, I'm going to turn this over to you, Lynn. I think we can start with what you love about Mark. And then when he comes on, you can do a more formal introduction.
Yeah, and I can say some things too, but yes, Lynn.
Okay. Well, first of all, Shelley Lefko is one of Mark's favorite people, and she got me on his podcast, which has like a zillion, million, trillion, billion, gazillion views. But I met him years ago, and we went sailing together with his daughter, and he's always been somebody that I admired. And I've always thought of him, and I think many people think of him as the godfather of the whole movement, food as medicine movement. And he's a revolutionary, and we're going to ask him some questions and he'll tell us how he became a revolutionary. But he's leading what many people would call the health revolution, because one of the biggest breakdowns in our system and our society and our way of living and our civilization is our relationship with food. We use it to go unconscious. We use it to kind of dumb ourselves down. And the food system, as we all know, is not set up to really support health. It's really the source of illness. And he's been focused ever since he healed himself, which he'll talk about, on creating a complete and total revolution in healthcare, and particularly in the relationship with food And also he's very big on aging, so we'll talk about that too. And he has one of the people who really has coined the phrase and become the icon of what's called functional medicine, which is a internationally recognized category now of being a doctor. He's also a leader, a speaker, an educator, an advocate for functional medicine and making it much more available and trains people in functional medicine. He's the founder of the Ultra Wellness Center and the senior advisor for the Cleveland Clinic, a Center for Functional Medicine. He's a 15-time New York Times bestselling author. I mean, not just one book, not just two books, not just three books, but 15 of them have been on the New York Times bestselling list. He's I don't know how he does all this stuff, board president for clinical affairs at the Institute of Functional Medicine. And he's the founder and chairman of the Food Fix campaign, which is dedicated to transforming our food and agricultural system through policy. So he knows a lot about food policy, and he's called upon by the powers that be in our government to advise on food policy. He's the co-founder and chief.
And here he is.
Oh, there he is. I'm singing your praises, Mark. I'm singing your praises. I'm just about to say the best thing about you, which is that that you went to the Amazon with us. But now I'm doing all the the fancy stuff. His health podcast, The Doctor's Pharmacy, has 150 million downloads. Just like think about that.
250.
Oh my God, 250 million. What? Oh my God. And he's a regular contributor to television shows. You've probably seen him on CBS This Morning, Good Morning America, Fox, CNN, but he also is on NPR. He said there's a whole thing where he does this whole thing on NPR. Okay, but here's the best thing about him. He is a Pacha person. He's been to the Amazon rainforest with us. He's a major contributor to the Pachamama Alliance. He most recently spread the news about Pachamama Alliance to millions of people on his podcast. I was on his podcast, as I said. And he's madly in love with his partner, who he just married in the high mountains of Patagonia, who also went on this trip with us to the Amazon, Brianna, his beloved. And he's the coolest guy in town. And he's 64 years old, but he looks like he's and experiences himself as in his 40s. And he's the
20s maybe.
40s and 20s. Nothing like being in love, that's very helpful. And then
Yeah.
Sarah Vetter wants to say some things about you, Mark, before we.
Oh my God.
Should we let her?
I'll be quick. I'll just say you so walk your talk. So in the Amazon, because a lot of you have been with us to a place called Naku, and you know what it's like. Every day he would get out his bands with his partner Brianna and some of the other people on that trip and do push-ups and sit-ups. And I'm like, who is this man? Like, who does that? I mean, we could barely get through the day and hiking, and there he was on the deck there on the platform, one-armed these and this and that. I didn't participate. I just watched. I was like, hopefully my watching would just be infused. But it was such a thrill for you to be in the Amazon with us and to take in the insights from our Indigenous partners and just the way you took on that journey with us. Oh, and he ate, what was the larva?
The grubs, the giant grubs.
The grubs, the squirrely.
I was the first one. It was like a domino effect.
So as big and prolific and profound as Mark is, he's also one of the kindest, most loving, caring, just walking your talk, amazing men. And it was a thrill to spend time with you.
Oh, thank you, Sarah.
No, Mark, you're speaking to women who've gone through our Remarkable Women's Journey course and their friends and colleagues and sisters. And Carolyn Buckloose, who I don't think you've met yet, leads this course with Sarah Vetter and myself. And we've been doing it for 8 years. So a lot of the women on this call have been involved in our work. And then many of them all of them are admirers of yours. And so we're going to do a little interview with you now and just ask you a few questions, but they put thousands of questions in the chat already.
Oh, thousands. Oh my
Wanted to learn about.
goodness.
So you can just stay with us for 2 or 3 hours and you get it all.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
But let me start by asking you that if you would tell the story, if you could, maybe not the long version, but the medium version,
Mm.
of your own health journey from being someone who had health problems that were, really taking you down to be
Yeah.
now one of the healthiest people in the world.
I don't know if I'm I don't know if I'm the healthiest person in the world, but I'm working on it. Thanks, Lynn. Thanks, Sarah. Thank you all for having me, inviting me to this. It's really special to be here with you all. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. Um, I was always interested in health from like 15 years old when I visited my sister in Amherst and had my first whole grain bread with crunchy peanut butter and honey. And that turned me into a kind of a crunchy granola hippie. And I was a yoga teacher before I was a doctor and, very much interested in health and nutrition and studied nutrition in college. But I went to medical school and kind of got brainwashed a little bit. Then I kind of came back around in my early 30s and something happened to me. I went to live in China, got mercury poisoning, and from one day to the next, I got chronic fatigue syndrome. My whole system collapsed, and I couldn't function. I went from riding my bike 100 miles a day to not being able to walk up the stairs, being able to sort of remember 30 patients that I'd seen without any notes and dictate all their charts at the end of the day to not even know where I was at the end of a sentence from when I started. And my muscles broke down. I had autoimmunity. My gut was a mess. Severe bloating and gastrointestinal issues that were just crippling, and nobody could help me and no one could figure it out. And it's really when I learned about functional medicine and I discovered that I had mercury poisoning and detoxed from that. But it was really just the beginning of like a whole series of kind of I don't know what hero's journeys to get to the point where I really understood what's going on in the body and could help my patients and translate that to the world. And then I got Lyme disease and babesia and mold toxicity and autoimmune disease and colitis. I mean, just the one thing after the other. And my most recent takedown was not that long ago. It was in 2017, which lasted about 6 months. And I just went, and it was in bed. I lost 3 pounds. Was almost dying. I was in and out of the hospital multiple times. And it was through that journey I really sort of got to understand more and more about how the body works, how to create health as opposed to treat disease, and to deal with incurable problems that everybody else has sort of given up on or manages symptomatically. I mean, I just took care of a guy yesterday who is just a very prominent guy who has this weird cerebellar disease. It's a sort of degeneration of the cerebellum, which affects balance and gait and speech. And cognitively, he's fine, but it's almost was given up on by the doctors and said, well, just, do physical therapy and good luck and, you'll die from this. I'm like, wait a minute, we looked under the hood and he's like full of mercury and mold and gut's a mess and he's massively nutritionally deficient and he can't detoxify. He's got low levels of all these nutrients and mitochondrial dysfunction and all these things are treatable. And so, putting together a program is pretty aggressive to really help him recover. And I do believe even from these conditions that traditional medicine has given up on, we can recover. And then many things that people just endure and suffer from, people can recover from. And that's really the purpose of my life's work, is to sort of bring this message to millions of people who are needlessly suffering and give them the opportunity to actually heal.
So it really came from your own breakthrough. You created a breakthrough for somehow echoing crazy here. So and it's so great to hear that, so that people know that anything's possible, anything's possible. And it's almost like God gave you these diseases so that you could help the rest of us. So
Damn, it was tough. Honestly, I wish I hadn't had to go through that, but I'm glad I'm on the other side of it, and I keep learning more and keep growing and improving. So it's just like I'm using my own body as a kind of a guinea pig lab rat to kind of figure out how this all works, and it's been so gratifying because then I can translate that for people and help. But it's not something I wish on my enemy.
but it makes you so compassionate, because you're such a compassionate doctor and such a compassionate human, and I think that's almost like
Thank you.
the ground of being that you come from is you know what it's like to be really, really, really ill. Okay, so over to Sarah. Sarah's going to ask you.
Yeah. So this is in the category of learning. I'm really interested in you sharing about what insights, what impact the indigenous people, the Amazon rainforest had on your work, on your life. Like what were things that just really showed up for you in that journey and space?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, I've always been drawn to indigenous cultures, and even as a teenager, I was studying with Native Americans, doing sweat lodges in the 70s, with this thing called the Black Hills Survival Gathering, where, they were all these old time Native American, Lakota, Hopi chiefs and shamans, and we did this amazing work together. And I really went deep into that path of indigenous wisdom and traditions, and there wasn't really any medicine involved. It was really more of the sweat lodges and the vision quest, which is about like taking ayahuasca. Like if you go sit by yourself for like 5 days or 4 days with no water, or I mean, whether you have water, but no food and no anything. It kind of brings you to that. So, I've always been drawn to indigenous people around the world. I've traveled all over the world and seen them. So I was really excited to go visit the Sapara people and the Aker people and to kind of learn from them. And, it's really, they're sort of, this sort of reminded me of, who we are as human beings and who we came here to be and what we came here to do and how interconnected we are with nature and the earth and the medicine plants and the food plants and just kind of woven into who they are. Like we're so also disconnected from the ecosystems, from nature, from sort of ancient wisdom. And it was just such a beautiful immersion in being away from all the things that kind of take us away from our soul and ourself, and be able to actually have a chance to sort of drop in and be with them. And it was such a like a stillness that came over me, and like a nervous system reset just by being there. That was so powerful. So that experience really just was a beautiful thing to have in New Year's. It was like I had entered the year in a very different way. So I'm still carrying that with me, and I think really have I think maybe I was like, there was a way you were kind of born again into a different life. Who would you be? And I was like, I would be a Lakota warrior, like riding my horse across the plains and hunting buffalo. That's what I would. That if I could have my perfect life, that's what I would do.
Wow. And I love that you said you still carry it with you. How, in what ways? Like, how is it that you are maintaining that stillness feeling that, you felt when you were there away from the modern world?
Yeah, well, jump back into it and it hits you fast. But we had a chance to kind of do a slow re-entry traveling around South America, and I felt like there's a certain resonance that I felt. It's hard to explain, but a certain resonance in my body and sort of a stillness in my brain and in my mind. It kind of came through that journey. So like a far lower level of anxiety or stress, even in the context of very stressful environments, I felt much more sort of grounded and it's almost like a nervous system reset that I carried with me. That's been very powerful.
It's fantastic. Okay, thank you.
And God has tested me for sure, because there's some really nasty stuff that's happened since I got back. But Brianna's like, "How are you managing this so well?" I don't really get it. I'm like, I don't know. It's something different kind of metabolized in my system around it.
Love that. Thank you.
I love that. The reflection, Mark. I find that when I'm in the Amazon, it really does feel like time out of time, and my whole nervous system gets to a whole different level. I want to switch to more at the system level. The first time I could speak, it was at one of the Transformation Leadership Council meetings. And at that time, I was leading the consulting arm for the pharmaceutical industry for Ernst & Young. And I was really floored in a good way.
I think we should just end this conversation now then.
Yeah, no, I'm recovering, but that was the point. I was really floored by actually having a bigger understanding of what's really happening here. I mean, it was really amazing. And so when you look at now, what needs to shift in the system, whether it's the agricultural system, the food system, the healthcare system, if there were 3 areas that if you could really shift,
Yeah.
that would make the biggest difference,
Mm.
what's the top of your list?
Yeah, it's not really hard. I mean, when you think about what's happening in the world today, I mean, there are, I think, 2 main forces that are taking down humanity. One is the food system from farm to fork, and the other is sort of technology and the kind of the way in which it's kind of usurped our own common sense and it's sort of targeted our limbic brain and is driving kind of divisiveness and separation and disconnection at a scale I've never seen in my lifetime. And I think, these sort of the algorithms that are psychographically driven that activate the worst parts of us are a big problem. It's not my area, so I'm going to leave that aside. I'm going to talk about the area that I do know a lot about, which is our food system. And the thing that most people don't realize is that our food system basically is a nexus where everything that is going wrong occurs in our society. So I'll just unpack that for a minute. Aside from the tech part, which I'm also acknowledging, the food system, it's driving this explosion of chronic disease. 93% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy, 75% overweight, 6 out of 10 have a chronic illness, 4 in 10 have more than one. The costs are now 4.5 trillion, up from 1.6 in 2000 a year. That's just direct costs, not even an indirect cost for disability and more. That's even probably double that. It's, healthcare is 30% of our federal budget. It's 44% of the healthcare costs are spent by our government dollars, which is really frightening when you think that so much money is going to something that is just doesn't need to go to that we have the answers to solve it. We're seeing the economic burden of that in our federal deficit, and I think that's going to take our country down. I think the way in which the food affects us, our mental health, is directly connected to ultra processed food, our physical health, obviously, the divisiveness, the disconnection, the inflammation of our brain, the neuroinflammation that's driving a lot of the dysregulated behaviors and aggression and violence and divisiveness and disconnection and separation, the lack of ability to have sort of civil discourse. I think it's all connected to the inflammation in our brains related to this, as well as the algorithms on social media, and then of course it affects our kids' academic performance. It affects their ability to focus, and it affects obviously our kids in many ways through obesity, through ADD, and neurodevelopment, and then it's driving huge social disruption through the targeting of communities that are underserved, Hispanic and African American, Native American communities suffer far worse consequences and are targeted by the industry. And then we have the government who's paying for all this on top of it, paying for food stamps, $100+ billion program. 75% of that's for food stamps. I mean, sorry, 75% of that food stamp program is for processed food, 10% is for soda. We pay for it in the back end with Medicare, Medicaid. So the government's paying a huge part of this bill. It's really the biggest burden. And then we see the environmental impact, which is how we grow food, from sort of the agrochemical companies, the seed companies, the fertilizer companies, is a really toxic triad that is captured most American agriculture globally, a large part of the agriculture, and is destroying our biodiversity, destroying our ecosystems through, for example, eutrophication from runoff from nitrogen fertilizers that destroys large swaths of our waterways that, like in sides of New Jersey, for example, in the Gulf of Mexico, kills all the fish, sucks oxygen out of the water, and 500 million people around the world and 400 dead zones are affected by this. That's just one thing. And then we have the pesticides and herbicides and loss of pollinators and birds and other species. We have the human health effects on fertility and cancer. We're seeing cancer rates go through the roof, all because of how we're growing our food. And then the soil destruction, just through the tillage and the chemicals destroy the organic matter of the soil, which is the biggest sink for carbon. So 1/3 of all the atmospheric carbon that we have today has come from the destruction of soil and loss of organic matter. So, we are kind of in this vicious cycle where if we get to the root cause, if we really fix food, starting with the farm and sort of regenerative agricultural movement, which we're working on and doing this work in policy work in Washington with my nonprofit, the Food Fix campaign, we actually could start to make changes. And I was just on the phone this morning with the chairman of the Health Subcommittee for Ways and Means, was in charge of all the Medicare funding. And, we're working together on changing food policy and food as medicine to affect change across all these domains. But it's not like a silver bullet. It's going to be like a lead buckshot, where we have to go after multiple areas that are really driving this function. So I think, even some of the violence, aggression, and behavior issues, I wrote about in my book, Food Fix. We see in prisons, if you feed prisoners healthy food, their violent crime goes down by 56%. If you add a multivitamin, it goes down by 80%. Do this in juvenile detention centers, 97% reduction in violence, 75% reduction in restraints, 100% reduction in suicides, which is the leading cause of death in teenage boys, and just from swapping out crappy food for real food. So we know we have the data, we're just not acting on it. But it's what really is my main passion right now, is how do we start to really shift people and get them be empowered around their own health and be activists with their fork, with their wallet, and with their vote to actually make the change we need.
So I'm going to ask you a tough question, which is all of that. What gives you hope relative to what can be moved that can actually scale quickly? Like, what's giving you the most hope these days?
Change always happens from the outside, right? We are working on policy, and we're working on regulation, we're working on legislation. It's a slow game. It's a decades-long game. The thing that I'm most excited about is the company that I co-founded called Function Health, which is really about empowering people with their own health data information, disrupting the healthcare system by letting people get access to over 110 biomarker lab tests and another 60 at 6 months for a membership of $499. And it really is just the beginning of what the data we're going to be allowing people to gather themselves from their omics to their biosensors to all their medical records, and providing them deep insights and understanding from the medical literature, from traditional medicine, functional medicine, from the scientific research, from experts from all domains, and gives them actionable insights about what's going on in their body, how to change it, what to do. We just found that, one out of every 188 people we've been testing has cancer that they didn't know they had from a liquid biopsy. So actually, I'm going on television tonight to talk about that on Chris Cuomo's show and News Nation. But it's really, it's sort of staggering that, we're finding that it allows people to know about their health. So I'm very excited about this company, which I think is going to disrupt healthcare, and we're going to bring in an approach that includes food as medicine first, and that sort of bypasses the traditional doctor, hospital, insurance model, and for a very low cost allows people to really be empowered with all their data. So I'm very hopeful about that. I think companies like that are changing things faster than are going to be changed by doing it with traditional businesses or traditional legislation or regulation approach.
Well, I'm excited about that too. Thank you. Lynn, over to you.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of questions in the chat. We're going to let people ask you themselves, but in a few minutes. But I just want to ask one more question, because your most recent book, Forever Aging,
Young
is
forever.
Young Forever.
I don't want to be aging forever. I want to be young forever.
Your latest book about aging, Young Forever. The work you're doing on aging, I think, is really groundbreaking, really groundbreaking, and you're an example of it. And I'd love that you have your bracelets on from the Amazon. I was just noticing that. Why not do? Okay. I would love for you to talk about that just a little bit, and then we'll open it up for everybody to ask you questions, because they want to know about menopause, they want to know about all kinds of stuff. But could you talk a little bit about aging and Young Forever? Well, and I just want to say, I signed up for the functional health thing, and I think everybody should do it. It's like Function Health, like totally cool.
functionhealth.com.
And
Yeah.
Everybody should
Well,
sign up.
there is a wait list of about there's a wait list of
I did
150,000 people, but if you can jump the wait list if you go to functionhealth.com/Mark, and then you jump the wait list. So if you want to get on.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't give that out. It's just for you guys. Sarah, you going to say something?
No, just that I signed up too. That's all.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. So to answer your question, Lynn, I think functional medicine, for those who don't know, is really about the science of creating health. And it's not so much about the science of disease, although we include that. Like, what are the root causes of health? What are the root causes of disease? And by understanding that, we can affect a multitude of illnesses across all specialties in ways that are really not effectively done. And aging and longevity are really just the degradation of these basic fundamental things that we need to operate to be healthy. You know, our gut microbiome, our immune system, our detox system, our mitochondria, our energy system, our nutritional metabolic system. These are all core systems that tend to get dysregulated as we get older because of insults, because of poor diet, stress, various toxins, allergens, microbes, and not enough of the right things we need to thrive. You know, the right food, nutrients, balance of hormones, air, water, light, love, meaning, purpose. All these things are the ingredients for health. And so from the perspective of longevity, it's really the same thing. It's like, how do we optimize health? How do we bring the body back into a state of regeneration, repair, and renewal using our built-in mechanisms that we have to do that? So we all have embedded within us incredible healing potential, but we don't activate it. Like when you cut your skin heals. You don't go, oh, I want you to heal my skin and do this and that. It just knows. It recruits stem cells, it recruits white blood cells, it creates collagen and fibroblasts, and all of a sudden you get your skin healing when you get a cut. Miracle. But we have this system embedded within us that can clean up and heal a lot of the damage that goes wrong as we get older. And I think most of the damage we get wrong goes on is something that we can do something about. And so what is our lifespan? Well, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that most people on this call could live 100 healthy years. Getting to 120 might be a little more tricky, and I think there's some advanced therapeutics and other things we're learning about that can activate those pathways, those regenerative pathways. But at the end of the day, it's all about how do we understand the root causes of health and the root cause of disease and work with those things to really optimize our biological networks. And we're seeing this remarkably. I just did the function panel. This gives you a biological age based on a epigenetic scoring system. And I did mine in October. And then I did it again in February. And after going to the Amazon and doing all this medicine, and I did plasmapheresis, I did stem cells, I did a bunch of stuff. Even though I got 5 months older chronologically, I got 1 year and a bit younger biologically. So the body has the ability to do this if you know what levers to pull. So I'm still learning. I'll still keep sharing what I know, but it's a pretty cool space to be in because there's a lot more money flooding into it. We also think that aging was sort of normal, that you know, as we get older, we get frail, decrepit, and diseased. But that's not true. I mean, that's just because we haven't understood how to work with the body in a way that actually keeps it in a renewal state. So that's what really Young Forever is about. You can check it out at the level where you get books, Young Forever. My Young Forever cookbook is coming out on June 4th, so you can pre-order that one if you want. Lots of great recipes.
Lynn, you're on mute.
Lynn, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I remember you saying you're 64 years old, but your biological age is 40 something.
43, yeah. Well, I got to, yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
amazing. That's
But there's
incredible.
another thing called the pace of aging. So you can see how fast you're aging. Like there's a score also that you can get called the Dunedin pace of aging. So if you're 1 or more, you're aging either at the rate of your chronological aging, but if you're more than 1, let's say your rate is 1.5, you're aging a half year faster than you're chronologically aging. But you can also do the other. You can look at your pace of aging, and it could be like 0.6 or 7 or 8. But mine's like, I think 0.8, which is really good. So it means for every year I get older chronologically, I don't get older a year biologically. So you kind of keep slowing that down and you can slow the pace of aging. So it's kind of cool.
And is that a test anybody could take, or do you?
Yeah, it's a lab company called True Diagnostics. You can order it. I think you can do it yourself at home. Or you can get your doctor to draw a little blood. It's probably easier, but it's True Diagnostic, I think, .com or something.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, well, I think people have a lot of questions for you, so I'm turned over to Carolyn, who's going to manage that part of our call.
Yes, I had asked Mark before you came on, what do people really want to know? And that's where we got thousands of ideas. So if you can put up your hand and I'll call on you. Zara.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Mark. I'm a huge fan. I actually just got off the wait list for your clinic. But so I have a couple questions. I have
amazing.
I have a yeast overgrowth, mold, heavy metals, parasites. I'm wondering
The
what,
usual.
yeah, the usual. I've worked with 10 million doctors over the past 3 years, functional meds, naturopaths, all of it. So I'm wondering how involved you are with your clinic. And if this is going to be the one, I'm wondering what you tackle first when someone has the usual. And I'm wondering what you think about the GAPS diet and approach, which I've been on for a couple of years. And they say no testing.
Well, first of all, I can't be giving you medical advice because that's illegal, but I can sort of speak in generalities. And I think that we do deal with people who've seen everyone and gone everywhere. That's kind of our specialty. Is you've seen all the regular doctors, you might have seen the lumbar functional medicine doctors, and you still are not getting answers or not better. We take a little bit more intensive approach, and so I think our approach is really kind of multifaceted. It's focused on obviously deep diagnostics to figure out what's going on with your immune system, whether there's infections. You said you've got mold, you've got heavy metals. Those are things that we take a deep look at, and then we kind of figure out what to do in the right order, because the right order matters. Cleaning up your gut is important. Get rid of the mold in your environment is important. Figure out what the source of metals are, get rid of that, and then learning how to do a healthy detoxification protocol is key. But we use a lot of really different kinds of treatments too. We use IV ozone, we use phosphatidylcholine IV for mold. We'll recommend people go different treatments like plasmapheresis or exosomes or peptides, depending on what's going on. So there's advanced stuff that we can do that really helps to sort of break the cycle of chronic disease.
And the GAPS approach, do you have any thoughts?
The GAPS diet?
The GAPS diet and the fact that they say just don't even test. You don't do blood tests.
Yeah.
And just heal with food.
Yeah, so this is really around SIBO, and it's something that was developed a while ago by Natasha Campbell McBride, and it's okay, but it's not like the kind of cure all for everything. I think people get stuck on one thing, and you have to be flexible and nimble when you do this kind of work, because there isn't one thing that works for everybody, and everybody's different and unique, and you have to really personalize the care. So it's really about understanding what's going on with you biologically, and it may be helpful or not. For example, getting rid of fermentable oligosaccharides and getting rid of it was something that I've used in certain patients, but it's very similar to my 10-day detox diet, essentially, which is get rid of all the sort of irritant foods and grains and starchy foods that cause fermentation. But that's not enough for people often. It's not necessarily enough, but it can help. But it's like but I always say if you're standing on attack, it takes a lot of aspirin to make it feel better. And what I mean by that is like, if you're eating this perfect diet, but you have mercury poisoning or mold toxicity, it's not going to help until you get rid of that. So it's kind of part of the game.
Great.
Thank you.
Leslie.
Hello. Hi, Mark. We met at Spirit in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
years
Yeah,
ago.
really.
My husband and I were teaching Afro Flow Yoga. It's so good to see
Oh,
you.
yeah. I must have done that with you. I love that.
Yes. And I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing. And years ago, we had a conversation in the ocean about communities. So my husband and I do a lot of work with underserved communities, Black and Indigenous communities that actually food was used to oppress and to dehumanize. And this is always $1 million question, like how can we get access to people who might not have the funds? Or
Yeah.
I think you were doing some work maybe in Boston, maybe with Liz Walker. I can't remember. We had a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great question. I think it's really important. I do talk a lot about in my food fix about this sort of social issues around these communities and depth. And I've worked a lot in these communities and I've worked for, years on Native American reservations in Idaho. I've worked in underserved communities in Cleveland, and I've worked in underserved areas in like Springfield, Massachusetts, and kind of understand, worked in prisons. I've kind of been around, and I think, there was a woman who was the medical director, a Black woman of the Bed-Stuy Community Health Center in Brooklyn, which is really underserved Black community. And she said something that really kind of struck me. She says, what the biggest determinant of your health outcomes and your mortality is, your lifespan, it's not your wealth, it's your education. And that education really is the key. And I think, when I hear these stories about like people just, not having access, there's truth to that, but also it's not knowing what to do. And I think I was part of a movie called Fed Up about 10 years ago. We went down to South Carolina. It's one of the worst food deserts in America. There's I think they call the Retail Food Environment Index, which like there's how many fast food and junk food bodegas are there to grocery store with healthy food. It was like 10 to 1. And his family was really sick. There was 5 of them, lived in a trailer, a family of 5. The father was 42 on dialysis. The mother was, from kidney failure from diabetes, 42, not childhood diabetes, overweight. The mother was 100 plus pounds overweight on tons of meds. The son was 16, the oldest son, and was 50% body fat and almost diabetic. And, they never ate a whole vegetable in their life, essentially. Maybe some iceberg lettuce. And so I looked in their kitchen. I didn't lecture them. I just, said, let's go shopping. Let's get simple ingredients, make real food. We used a guide called Good Food on a Tight Budget, and about how to eat well for you, your wallet, and the planet. And we made turkey chili and sweet potatoes, and we made some salad from real greens and olive oil and vinegar dressings, simple stuff. Fried asparagus, and they never cooked anything in their kitchen. Everything was in a box, packaged, can. They just didn't know what they were doing. They were trying to lose weight. The father needed to lose 45 pounds to get a new kidney. He couldn't do it. And they were just crying because they just didn't know what to do. And it was really so clear to me it was a lack of education. And they didn't know how to chop a vegetable or peel garlic or just the most basic skills. And so I showed him how to literally cook one meal. I showed him a basic here's how you chop, here's how you cook, here's how you order once you put things in the pan, here's the recipe. And they made the meal turn out delicious. They loved it. And, even the kid was all the kids came running in from playing Xbox because they never smelled food cooking in the kitchen before. They didn't have cutting boards or knives or anything. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know if it's going to work, but like, here's this guide on how to eat well for less. Here's my cookbook, one of my cookbooks I gave them. I said, stay in touch, see how it goes. Well, the mother texted me after the first week. She lost 18 pounds. The father lost 45 and ended up getting a kidney. The son lost 50, but then went back to work at Bojangles because it's the only place they could actually work down there. It's like, he says, like putting alcoholics to work in a bar, but eventually he got out of there. He asked for my help and I coached him a little bit. And, he lost 132 pounds, was the first kid in his family to go to college. And years later, he wrote me an email and said, could you please write me a letter of recommendation for medical school? And now he's a doctor. And so it taught me that it's really about helping people really on the ground with, not kind of down to them, not, lecturing, but really getting in there and being with them and community and supporting them. And we did this in Cleveland with churches, mostly African-American churches, where we had over 30 churches doing something called the Daniel Plan, which is a faith-based wellness program. We got people to really engage with each other, to learn together and to change their behaviors and support each other and change. And like, that's what this is here. You guys are a community. Lynn has created it with Sarah and her team to make you feel connected, belonging, and you're part of something that is meaningful, and you show up and you're accountable to each other and you support each other. That's kind of medicine. Community is medicine. And if you don't have that, it's really hard to make the change. So That's why we sort of focus on churches, but I think the indigenous communities have definitely been oppressed by Western food. They've had really their food sovereignty removed from them. That's led to a lot of the problems. So whether it's the traditional African foods or whether it's the Native American foods, they've all been co-opted. And I write a story in my book about the degree of internalized racism that occurs. Um, and it's like food racism. I don't know if it's a thing, but like there was this Hopi chief I went on a rafting trip with years ago with Bobby Kennedy, and we went down this Green River in Utah to sort of create awareness around the Tavaputs Plateau where they were doing tar sands mining that was going to destroy the Green River that would go into the Colorado River, which was a disaster. Anyway, this guy Howard was a Hopi chief, and he was like huge and overweight. His wife was huge and overweight, diabetic, on insulin shots, sucking back Coca-Colas all day. I'm like vomiting on his way just to walk, a few hundred yards to the boat. He was so unable to move. And I said, Howard, you can cure this diabetes. You can fix this. He's like, what do I have to do? Very interested. And I said, well, you have to kind of give up sugar and starchy foods and flour and all this stuff, because that's causing your diabetes. And he was like, oh my. We said, well, what are we going to do? Because we have our traditional Hopi ceremonies and we have our traditional Hopi ceremonial foods. I'm like, well, what are those? He says, well, like cakes and cookies and pies. And I'm like, well, those aren't like in my head, I was like, those aren't your traditional ceremonial foods. Those are, the white man's food that's been, pushed on you through commodities of flour and Crisco, trans fat, and sugar that have been your staples, and Indian fry bread. There's no such thing in traditional culture. And but I think getting traditional foodways back, and there are movements around this that's happening in the Native American communities. I think even in African American communities. If you look, for example, in the 60s, African Americans were far healthier than whites and had far less obesity, and now it's the opposite. And it's because those communities have been targeted directly by the food industry through advertising, marketing, distribution. And I think that needs to really get addressed, and communities really need to sort of take back their food sovereignty. And there are people doing this, like Karen Washington in Brooklyn, who's built community gardens and a farm, is really helping people get access. But it's a big job, and it's going to take a village to sort of fix it.
Well, Mark, we're going to try to squeeze in 4 more questions. So first I'm going to go to Kristen, because I know you had a question about menopause, then to Shelley, then to Chris, and then to Elizabeth. So Kristen, go ahead.
Thanks. And thank you, Mark, for your passion, your generosity, and just your care. I mean, what incredible work you're doing. I'm so grateful, and I know we all are here. You've got a room full of women. And my question is, I'm learning a lot about menopause right now. Hopefully not too late, but I am curious, there's so much confusion out there, especially after the misinterpretation of the 2002 Women's Health Initiative study was released. And it's really affected our sovereignty around getting hormone replacement therapy because of that confusion that is still being trickled out there and the lack of funding and research for women's health. So I'm curious if you can tell us 3 things that you most want us women to know about menopausal health.
Oh, that's a great question. So, I worked at Canyon Ranch, so where I cut my teeth on all this stuff in functional medicine, and that for almost 9 years, and that community was basically women between 40s and 60s. So this was my bread and butter, was dealing with this issue, and I think it's important for women to realize that that most of the things that occur that we see as sort of inevitable or common things that are part of women's life cycle, everything from PMS to painful periods to PCOS and to perimenopausal symptoms, hot flashes and mood swings and premenstrual migraines and insomnia and weight gain and just dysregulation are not just inevitable consequences of being female. These are not normal things that should happen to a human body that it's regulated properly with it. And so, there are many cultures where there's not even a word for hot flashes. Like in Japan, they didn't really have that because it just doesn't exist because they eat things that have to regulate their body. And so I would say it's really important for them to realize that if you're suffering from something, that's hormonally related, which is fairly common. And I'll tell you this next thing in a minute, but there are pathways to get your hormones regulated either naturally or sometimes using bioidentical hormones, which I think is important for people to use in the right way. So first point, suffering is optional. Second point is that there's a hormonal soup that occurs that gets dysregulated around menopause, and that includes the sex hormones, so estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. Meaning usually estrogen tends to spike a little bit, progesterone drops because you're not ovulating, testosterone will drop, and you'll end up with more hot flashes, you'll end up with heavy or regular bleeding, you'll end up with breast tenderness, fluid retention, migraines, mood changes, insomnia from this sort of dysregulation, low libido from testosterone. But there's also other hormones that are incredibly interwoven with the sex hormones that are co-regulating, and these include the stress hormones. And a lot of time what happens with women in their perimenopausal years is they're kind of in the sandwich generation, right? They have older parents, kids are teenagers, it's their peak of their career, and they're just like squished in this soup of stress. And that stress drives hormonal dysregulation in the sex hormones. The third hormone that really tends to get dysregulated is insulin. Insulin is, triggered by carbohydrate intake and sugar and starch, and as you get older, it tends to get worse, and so it creates more dysregulation around sex hormones. And for women, they can get a lot of weight gain, they can get breast tenderness, they can get acne, they can get all kinds of weird symptoms that relate to too much insulin in their bodies. And then lastly is thyroid hormones. Often thyroid hormones tend to get dysregulated. So you've got like sex hormones, thyroid hormone, insulin, adrenal hormones, all interconnected. And sometimes learning how to sort of work with each of those is really, really important. The third thing I would say is that, it's a transition, right? And so sometimes there are ways to sort of reduce the bad or negative impact of those transition and go through it more easily. But sometimes hormones can be really, really helpful. So it's really, in terms of hormonal use, what I would say is it should be highly personalized. You should definitely be testing what's happening before and after across all the hormones and regulating everything else first. So your gut microbiome, your nutritional status, your diet, all the things, stress, all the things you need to regulate. And then if you do need to use hormones, the best way to do it would be use the lowest dose possible, use bioidentical hormones that are the same as your body makes, use them topically to bypass your liver, and use them for only as long as you need them to have the effect. Now, some women may stay on them their whole life, and there are some risks, breast cancer, but most of the risks can be mitigated through understanding of hormone metabolism and detoxification, and really personalizing the approach by tracking things carefully. But it's important to understand that there's a way to use bioidentical hormones safely to mitigate a lot of the issues that happen as we get older and go through the transition, whether it's for libido, whether it's for vaginal dryness, or for hot flashes, or sleep issues, or any of those symptoms. So like I said, at the beginning, suffering is optional. So those are the three things I would probably say. I hope that was helpful.
Super helpful, Mark. So we have time for it. Let's do a quick one, Shelley, and then to Karishma, and Elizabeth has ceded her time. Shelley.
Hi, Shelley.
Shelley,
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Hey, sweetheart.
Hi.
So I have a question that won't surprise you. Are you looking at all at the whole area of how our beliefs are affecting our health? And from 2 points, from the point of, the way to get attention is to get sick, or, those kinds of beliefs. But even this morning, I was working out, and there was a guy who said, don't do cardio, don't do lift weights. I forget his name, you know him, Dr. something. But the whole thing.
That's strange advice.
Huh?
That's strange advice.
Yeah, no, he's saying do something else, but it's 4 hours till you get to what it is. But it's fascinating listening to you because, the thing with bioidenticals, are those hormones, they're bad for you, or carbs are bad, or this is bad. So it's just curious if you're, thinking about that or talking about.
Mm. Sure. Well, Shelley and I are old friends, and she's taught me a lot about my beliefs and helped me a lot over the years when my beliefs kind of messed me up. Um, and absolutely, you're the greatest pharmacy in the world is between your ears, and so what you believe is actually transmuted into biological signals, whether it's hormones or neurotransmitters or changes to your gut microbiome, cell signaling. Everything is regulated by your mind, and your every cell in your body, every microbe in your gut is listening to your thoughts and beliefs and is operating from that. So absolutely, it's critical, and it's sort of one of the essential pieces that you need to get healthy, which is to get your mind right. And that's not an easy task. Most of us are, struggle with depression or trauma or anxiety or things that happen to us as kids that we're still running the software on. And until we actually also deal with that, it's very hard to kind of recover and get better. And so I think absolutely, Shelley, what you work you do is so important, and I think beliefs play a huge role in all this. And it's when I work one with a patient, I certainly go into that a lot.
Thanks, Mark. And then Karishma.
Hi there. Hi, Dr. Hyman. So mine's a little bit personal, but I turned 40. I had my second son. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I've kind of been throwing the entire kitchen sink towards the problem with like acupuncture, sound healing, giving up gluten, dairy, all of that. My naturopath seems to think that it's connected to either vaccine injury or connected to long COVID. I'm just curious to know, like, what do you think is the highest impact way for me to kind of be on my healing journey, so to speak, outside of what I
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So were you fine before COVID?
I had an arthritic flare-up after COVID. You said, was I fine before COVID?
Like before COVID and before
yeah.
COVID vaccines, were
Yes.
you fine? You were healthy.
I was healthy, yes.
You didn't have rheumatoid arthritis, and then you got COVID, and then it started.
I had an arthritic flare-up post-COVID. Yeah, that was the first time, but nothing like I've experienced kind of postpartum. So,
yeah. So I actually also had COVID and had an arthritic flare afterwards, and basically kind of got treatment right away, which was plasmapheresis, which is not easily accessible to a lot of people, but essentially it's a blood cleaning process. The real key here in functional medicine is what's the root cause. So rheumatoid arthritis is just a name for people who share a collection of symptoms that are alike. It doesn't tell you anything about cause of the disease. So rheumatoid arthritis has many, many causes. It could be a parasite like Lentiviral histolytica. It could be gluten. It could be heavy metals. It could be dysbiosis in the gut, or many, many other things. So the key is to find out what the causes. It could be the remnants of long COVID that are actually driving this, or maybe some reaction to vaccine. And so there's really a lot of data on the dramatic increase in autoimmune diseases in people who've had COVID. And the question is, what do you do about it? So I literally am publishing soon a whole kind of monograph on long COVID and how to approach it and what to do about it and how to think about it. There are a number of tests you can do to help identify whether you have this. There's a company called Cell Trend in Germany, CELL Trend, you can Google that.
Okay.
The doctor may be able to get that test for you. It looks at all the autoantibodies and biomarkers from COVID that actually can be indicating you still have a problem. There's other tests as well. And then you figure out what are the things that can help it. And unfortunately, a lot of things that can help long COVID are not part of traditional medicine. And they're things like plasmapheresis, like ozone, like exosomes, like peptides, which are often very expensive and hard to access. But I think there are other ways you can do it. I mean, but it's not as easy. So I have a monograph coming out. Keep an eye out for that. It'll kind of walk you through everything. We're still putting the final touches on it, but this is a big problem. I mean, there's, if you think of like how many people had COVID, if 10% have long COVID, it's a lot of people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. Well, given that you've got Chris Cuomo to go on, we can't keep you for 5 hours.
Not right now. Not right now.
Turn this back over
That's tonight. That's tonight. It's 8 o'clock tonight. Tune in.
8 o'clock
Eastern
tonight.
time.
Excellent. Thank you. Lynn, back to you.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you so much for spending this time with us, Mark. You're a fountain of wisdom and integrity and impeccable exploration for constantly making us better human beings. And we really need that now. The challenges we're all facing are beyond what any generation's ever seen before. And to
No,
be
it's
healthy and to have that be, our body is part of the ecosystem that we're destroying. So it's all so powerful to listen to you speak. And I know also that, just from being with you, that you can feel that there's also a spiritual crisis at the heart of even the health crisis, that we've lost our souls to a consumer society that's kind of destroying the very fabric of who we are. But there's a lot of hope and there's a lot of possibility, and it's almost as if people like you are generating a new way of seeing who it is to be a human being, what it is to be a human being. So it's ultimately, I know you're at the heart of the transformation, and I just want to thank you for being with us and give Sarah and Carolyn a chance to just say thank you too before we go.
Yeah, just huge thank you, however old you are biologically. Doesn't matter. I'm so glad you were born, whenever that was you were born, and you're
a
aging
long
back.
time ago.
I'm
A
so
long time
glad
ago.
that you're going to be with us for a long time to help us through all these issues.
Yeah.
You are one of the kindest, most loving people I've ever met. And
Oh, thank you,
I want
Sarah.
to thank you. And please give a hug to Brianna for us. Please, please,
I
please.
will. She's in the other room. I'll go grab
Oh,
her.
so much. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. This is powerful, powerful, amazing. Thank you.
And
Oh, thank you so much.
add my thoughts, Mark, for all of our remarkable women, part of the journey is to get back into our bodies and to associate with our bodies fully, and to know that we have the power to heal ourselves. And by doing that, we have the power to heal the world. So thank you so much for being such a pioneer, such a loving pioneer. It's been wonderful to have you.
Well, thanks. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being part of this.
Right. And maybe everybody could put in the chat your gratitude for this conversation. So then we'll share that with Mark later if he has to hop off. But you can just go wild in the chat right now and let him know what it means to have a chance to hear from one of the great doctors of our time, really. It's amazing.
Thank you. You're the best. I missed our floats down the Amazon River with the pink dolphins.
I miss watching you exercise in the Amazon, not exercising myself.
Actually, that's what I'm going to go do right now. I got another podcast after this, and I'm going to go work out and then, get some sun. All right. Great to see you all. And take care. Okay, lots of love, everybody. Bye. Bye, Shelley. Bye.
Okay,
Wow,
over to you, Sarah.
Yeah, just we will keep you informed of the next remarkable voice. And thank you all for being here. And this was powerful. And the recording will be sent out because he talks so fast. I'm gonna need to go back and slow it down and listen to all the amazing things. And we'll send you the Function Health link and things like that. So that's it. That's what I got. Thank you so
And
much.
maybe Shelley, you put in the chat how to reach you, given he acknowledged how much you've helped him with his belief system. So that's Shelley's superpower, is to have you look at your beliefs and what serves you and what doesn't. So since he gave you a little shout out, I thought maybe we'd give you a chance to put that in the chat. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Everybody have a wonderful
Thanks,
rest of
everyone.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, Lenny. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye, Remarkables.
Bye.
Bye, Melinda.
Carolyn, you have your hand up. Did you have a question? Oh, now it's down.
Waving.
Hi, Trace.
Hi, Shelley. Thanks for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Send my love home.
I will.
Okay. Bye, Melinda.
Great to be with you all. Love you. Bye, Annie. Bye, Melinda. Let's see. Let's see. I'm gonna just
think
do
you could-
this
Yeah, probably just need to.
and do this and do this. Okay.
And then there were 4.
And then you can stop the recording.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna stop the recording.